When you have the knowledge, you have to give that away. You cannot be selfish, you cannot keep it. And that's something that has been part of my DNA, my fabric.
In this episode, we meet Dr. Hernán Morales, a distinguished leader and educator whose journey from the military to the corporate world and academia exemplifies resilience and dedication. First you learn, then you earn, and then you return.
Because you think that you earned that, but nothing is granted in life. At any given time, they could and they did. Took it away. Self-regulate yourself, Hernán. Empathy, emotions, mood. Your mood really matters. I'm speaking probably 2006. This is what I learned. You cannot change who you are. You can improve what you're doing or who you are down the road. And sometimes it takes time.
The pursuit of higher education often comes with significant personal sacrifices, but the rewards can be life-changing. I'm Alex Ponce. In this episode, we meet Dr. Hernán Morales, a distinguished leader and educator whose journey from the military to the corporate world and academia exemplifies resilience and dedication. Despite the challenges, his unwavering commitment to personal and professional growth has made him a true inspiration. Well, Dr. Hernán Morales, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Alex?
I'm good. How was your drive-in today?
It was unique. Let's put it that way.
Unique? What happened?
You try to time yourself and eat breakfast and make sure that you're ready and get lost here at FIU after a couple of years, parking lot choices and all that. But I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad. And I just want to start with a thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here today.
You know, we couldn't do this without people like you. And I'm just grateful that you had the time to come over here because I know you're a very busy man. And I wanted to get right into it. So tell me about your professorship. You're an adjunct professor at MIU.
Correct.
And it's MIU City University. And I wanted to know what inspired you to transition into academia, you know, after such a long career in insurance and customer service.
Well, I'll start with a joke. So my previous employer, they do not have a pension plan.
Okay.
So they have a 401k. So I started thinking is like, what am I going to do after I retire or after I leave my employer? 401k, I have to wait at least until 59 and a half. I like teaching. My mom always said, you could be a PE teacher or a history teacher. I like facts. And it was as a result of a colleague of mine who graduated from here, from FIU, and he referred me to MIU. He referred me probably, and this is one of the times when you figure out that there's no perfect time. Working at my employer, preparing for the dissertation. Here comes a teaching offer. My daughter graduating. We're planning to sell the house. It's like, should I take the adjunct job? Let's do it. Let's do it. Not having, I would probably say the foundation of it, but I had the desire because it's one of the things that I feel that when you have the knowledge, you have to give that away. You cannot be selfish. You cannot keep it. And that's something that has been part of my DNA, my fabric. It's like, I want to share this. When you're ready to die, all you're going to take, and this is my opinion, is those thoughts, those experiences, the smells, the food, the music in Barranquilla, Colombia, or Puerto Rico. That's what you're going to take. And I don't want to keep it. I want to share that. And the best way for me in a formal way setting, you'll be just to teach for a school.
Well, that's interesting because recently actor Denzel Washington, giving an interview, he explained to the person, first you learn, then you earn, and then you return.
Well said.
And you're right now in the return mode, it seems.
I agree.
All right. So why don't you take me back to the beginning of your career, which seems to have been 25 years, roughly.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, 25 years at Progressive. What happened? How did that start? How did you get that job to begin with? And what did you do at the beginning? Because 25 years ago, a lot has changed.
You're making me going back in time, and family core values. Mm-hmm. We all have that. Mm-hmm. Some people realize that there are values within your families, that your dad is teaching you something. Mm-hmm. So to be frank and open about this, so I'm doing pretty much what my dad did.
Okay. He was in insurance as well?
He was in insurance. He was in claims.
Okay.
He went to the military. I went to the military. He liked bowling. I like bowling. What else? The only one thing...
You are your father's son.
I'm kind of. Yeah. The only thing that I didn't do, because I had, what can I say, extrovert, I didn't join the fraternity.
Okay.
I said, no, that's too painful. I'm not going to do that. So I keep following Dad, but he taught me with his experience in his employment, loyalty. Mm-hmm. Loyalty may be different nowadays. Different generation, of course, but that's what he taught me when I was growing up. So I started working in the insurance.
Were you working for him?
No.
Okay, so you went out on your own.
I went on my own.
As your first stop.
That's correct. I started working for a bank in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So during the weekends, I started helping volunteer with their auto claims department. Okay. But I work in collections. So I was like, well, my dad works in here. How hard can that be? Mm-hmm. From there, unique experiences in life. Mm-hmm. He said, Hernán, I'm going to pay you one-way ticket. You're going to go to Miami. So he gave me $1,000. I came here.
How old were you at this time?
Well, yesterday was my 55th birthday.
So you were 18? You were 20?
I was 24 years old.
Oh, my God.
When I came to Miami.
By yourself?
Well, my best man, he was living here.
Okay.
So we were leaving Bird Road and 107 Avenue, that area.
Okay. Your best man?
My best man.
Okay. Were you married at that time?
No, he became my best man.
He became your best friend. So he's your best friend. Let me put it that way.
Don't put it that way. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So your best friend and you were able to meet up with him once you got here, and together you established a home base.
Kind of. We were living in a garage of one of the houses near.
Yeah, sounds about right. At 24, yeah, sounds about right.
It was great. I kept looking the Miami Herald employment, and all I saw is this insurance adjusted, wanted, pay well. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the same thing. I know that dad came home. We had to give him an hour for him to come down. And they said, hey, how are you doing? And then he acknowledged you. Working in claims, it's challenging. Okay. It's difficult. It's conflict. The way that I put to my students, that I teach in conflict management is like, I work in an environment where I didn't like conflict, but I became real good. I knew that the conflict was coming. I just didn't know what package was coming from who and what was the complexity of that problem. But I became real good. I applied to that job. That company was sold later, but they're still here in the 107 Northwest area. As an independent insurance adjuster, worked for 3.5 years with them. And I came to Progressive as a result of that prior company didn't give me $500 more. I was looking for a round number. Okay. I was looking for $30,500.
And they didn't want to give it to you?
They said $30,000.
But Progressive said yes.
Progressive hired me, I want to say that it was like January of 1995. They said, we are going to get you, but the position will come open in April. Okay. So I stayed. I did my 2 weeks before coming to Progressive, and I started working with Progressive in Miami here. Great experience, because part of growing up, maturing, it's where do I want to go next? So I started with Progressive. So if I want to become a supervisor, first line of leadership, so I need to have inside experience. I need to go outside, working in claims. That meant going to the repair facilities. I was scared. Going to repair facilities, and there's some nice areas here in Miami, but there's some areas that they're challenging. And not knowing what you're talking about, because it's a different language. But I had the support. Okay. I had the support from older tenure peers of mine. Okay. And they were familiar with the tactics, with the techniques. They mentored me.
I was going to ask you, were they like in a mentor role? Were they,
informally?
But they were taking care of you?
They did.
And we hear that often, that those that have most succeeded in their careers, it's usually because they've had at least one good mentor that was their advocate, that was their teacher, that was their disciplinarian, because everyone makes mistakes, and this is the person that pulls you aside and says, you can't do that.
Yes.
And that was your everything. And you have more than one.
I have more than one. And I think that looking back in retrospective about Progressive, they care about mentorship. Mm-hmm. It's
a corporate culture thing.
It's a fundamental piece.
Okay.
You just mentioned culture. And I said, I never worked for anybody else beside Progressive Insurance. Amazing culture. Mm. It's like, what's your blood? Blue. That's the color of Progressive. Mm. And culture, we know that it can be learned. Mm-hmm. But when someone higher up, someone who you hire and on board and 3 weeks, a month later, speaking the same and feeling the same way as you, mm-hmm. something is right. Mm. And that culture at Progressive, that was probably one of the main reasons why I stayed with Progressive for so long, close to 26 years. 26
years. Yeah, you don't stay at a company for 26 years unless something's going right.
Agree.
You had a lot of roles there.
I did.
You went from a claims branch manager to National Fixed Property Damage Supervisor.
Up and down.
Up and down. Okay.
I will interrupt you there. That is something that happens. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you control your own fate. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a recession, and as a result, your company will be affected. So when you see my CV or resume, you see, well, manager, supervisor. I got the branch manager mm-hmm. at the time. And it was like, wow. Office, window, in Galleria, where the Brave Stadium is now. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Here comes a bad time for Progressive. They went to a difficult time. Mm-hmm. They picked names, and one of my names was picked. Mm-hmm. So I went down to supervisor. Mm-hmm. What I learned from that, and I was, of course, you're furious because you think that you earned that, but nothing is granted in life. Mm-hmm. At any given time, they could and they did, took it away.
Right.
It's the attitude that I place. And it took me a while. It took me a while to be sincere with you just to get over that. Because I thought it's like, I moved my family from Miami to Orlando, to Atlanta, not knowing a soul here. Mm-hmm. I asked years later, what was it? Why? Well, it was not difficult, Hernán. It was not because of behavior. It was not because of performance. You were one of the newest branch managers with 4 years. So
sometimes it's not personal. It's just business.
It's just business.
And you just happen to be on the losing end. That happens.
I agree.
Just like sometimes you're on the winning end.
I agree.
You know, you don't always have control over externalities. That's why they are externalities. All right. And while you were in these positions, particularly the branch manager one, was there an example of a pivotal moment that you had regarding leadership where your experience and your years being there really influenced how you dealt with your team?
Look, we were chatting about when we started this conversation about the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a bad one. Mm-hmm. We came out of an audit, and my team did not perform well.
Okay.
Being a brand new branch manager and having, I think back then it was 18 to 20 people under you, that branch, came out furious. Started calling my supervisors, asking them why they didn't catch that, what were they going to do about it. I came back to the meeting that we were having, regional managers, general managers, my manager, etc. I left the meeting, and a few days later, I reassessed what I did. And it was wrong because that was not me. I was emulating the atmosphere in that room.
Okay.
Which it was not the best atmosphere. I think looking back, there are things that I control. There are things that they cannot control. Mm-hmm. There is ways that you can give feedback, things that you can reassess. Okay, what can we do? What was our intention to do to perform in this audit? And it was one of the things that I learned. And what I learned there, I have heard about emotional intelligence for a while. Mm-hmm. self-regulate yourself, Hernan. Empathy, your emotions, mood. Your mood really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I'm speaking probably 2006.
Mm-hmm.
When I came out and I was like, this is what I learned. It's like, you cannot change who you are. You can improve what you're doing or who you are down the road. And sometimes it takes time. But it's like, do you want your manager to talk to you or to give you that type of message? No, I do not. So why do you do it? And it's to a point and it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that manager. I don't want to be that leader.
Mm.
And I was, like I said, learning my ropes, trying to find my spot within the leadership team within Georgia. And it was an experience. It was a humble experience. I apologize.
Mm.
I apologize to all of them. I said, this is on me.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like the entire team.
It was on me.
Right.
It was not only on them.
How did that change your relationship with the team?
You know, you talk about humility. You talk about being transparent. You talk about creating trust.
Mm-hmm.
And trust to me is, you know, if you're going to say that you're going to do something, do it. I don't need to ask you again.
So
because I know that you're going to do. Consistent is part of the trust. Being open. There was a job, one of my jobs, that it was a process-driven job. It was efficiency and productivity.
Okay.
And move forward, I end up putting those two sides top in the country because I learned how to do their job. There is a continuous improvement technique, Kaizen.
Okay. Yes.
One of their steps is called Gamba walks.
Mm-hmm.
Gamba walks is simply as what Toyota just put it. Being on the production line and observing. Stop. Anybody has the authority just to stop the machine and said, hey, we have some problems here. So accountability was going back and forth between my team members and myself. But part of this was knowing their role and telling you can give more. You can do more. Rewarding that. Acknowledging that they're doing a good job. That was trust. At the end of Friday, I would say, listen, this is going to be part of me. It's 3:00. We know we work until 5, but you've done a phenomenal job this week. Go home.
So constant acknowledgement also is important so that they know where they are. Because oftentimes they get the complaint, but they never get the reward. So if they have the other side of it, then they know where they are. And those Gamba walks are so important. If I remember the Kaizen stories right, the employees, because they were in a collectivist society, they would know the error was occurring, but they would continue to allow it because they haven't been told by their superiors to do anything. And then later when they were asked, well, have there been any problems on the production line? They'd be like, oh, yes, there are these 3, 4, 5 mistakes. And the C-suite people were asking, well, why didn't you say anything? Well, you didn't ask. And we didn't feel we were in a position to say anything. And they don't understand that, as we know now, everybody's a leader. Everyone's responsible for their position, but they're also responsible for the end product. So therefore, everyone is a leader. Even though there might be an official leader for the group or the team, you're also responsible.
I agree 100%.
That nicely dovetails into what you do next, which is you seem to have a specialty, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you've made it a hallmark of yours that even while you're doing claims, you're also a DEI leader.
Yes.
In the organization. In this case, it's progressive, and also with your community service work. You've found the way to incorporate it everywhere you can. So tell me about this. Like, how did you become a DEI champion? And what does it mean to you? And I ask this because everyone has a different opinion what DEI means. And it's become politicized and everything, but it's actually a very basic HR, philosophy. So why don't you tell me what you think DEI means to you, and why is it so important for it to be a part of all of your interactions?
Let me start with how I enter this environment. So progressive, it's huge. A lot of support with the diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of their culture as well. It's part of their fabric. They had at the time 6 or 7 employee resources group. Mm-hmm. They had a Latino one, or they still have a Latino one called Planeta. So every year they said, well, every 2 years, they said, we're going to post these positions for board members.
Okay. I noticed you're on the board.
I was part of the board of Planeta. I self-nominated myself. I just told my manager, all you need to do is just sign right here.
So you took the leap.
I took
because no one's going to do it for you. You got to do it for yourself.
You have to do it yourself.
Okay.
You have to understand where this is going to take you. I have the passion, not only because I am a minority, but it's like there is a blessing. There is something good in everyone. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where you're from. Mm-hmm. I was accepted, and we were participating at the board at the time, had a meeting with the CEO at the time, Glenn Renwick. Mm. They prepare everything. And one of the areas of that I noticed was that they survey the population, the Planeta population, and they came up, at least at the time, they said, we like it, but they feel that most of the events are located in the 5 hubs, either Cleveland, Tampa, Austin, Colorado Springs, and I'm missing one more.
But you have employees everywhere.
But they wanted to have that touchy, that objective, that feeling of being in person and participated. Mm-hmm. So I took that and I said, I think we have a great idea here. Mm. How many events are we having? 1 or 2 events. And of course, main events are located in the main campuses. Why can't we do something that people feel that they're participating with the ERG and Progressive as a whole? Mm. There was, I started brainstorming with my team back in Atlanta. And they said, well, when I was in college, there was this company called Soul for Souls. Mm-hmm. And they collect shoes and they can earmark the shoes for a community if you want, or if the shoes are not really clean or in a condition, they can go ahead and just give them away. Nike has something that with the rubber, they do like playgrounds. Okay. So Soul for Soul kind of have the same mentality of using the shoes that they're not in a good condition. Okay. Fast forward, I did it 1 year. I requested all the permission, communication. We collected about 1,500 pair of shoes that first year. So I asked the board, give me 1 second year. I wanted more years, but they said, give me 1 more. Mm. I learned. Right. I backtracked. What could I have done better to communicate, to involve more people? The second event.
So your focus there was on the inclusion part of the.
It was inclusion. Mm-hmm. It was inclusion because I want everybody. I took that comment. I want to do something to reverse that, or at least counterattack or.
And mind you, attendance to your festival and also to the Souls are in the thousands. You're not just like, it's not like 10, 20 people. It's thousands.
We collected in total about those 2 years close to 10,000 pair of shoes on behalf of Progressive. Wow. I feel. Besides being acknowledged, I did what I wanted. I wanted to include as many people, 40-something offices, hundreds of people, sending photos, earmark for communities, for Hispanic community, the pair of shoes that we collected. It was an amazing event, and I took that as a catapult. I took that, okay, so if I did this with this particular event, I can continue creating more inclusive events. Right. Alzheimer walks. We did the same thing, collected thousands of dollars on behalf of Progressive for the Alzheimer walks. It's it can be done. People just hold back. It's like, well, I got a day job and this is going to be more work.
Of course.
You have to do it.
But it's a way of giving back. Again, return, you know. Tell me about that has to do with the community service that you did, I guess, in your capacity at Progressive. Were you also involved in HR policies that had to do with DEI? Because oftentimes that's usually handled by learning and development, HR. Like they have their own people that dedicate themselves to this. But DEI is not just HR. It's everybody that does something to be inclusive or deals with diversity and whatnot. What about you? What was your take on your championing the DEI philosophy, the way it's originally created? How was that with Progressive?
From my research, DEI pays off. The misunderstanding comes in how you measure, how you see the benefit in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay. Well, talk to me about it, because that's part of your dissertation. I mean, you literally are examining how job resources and self-determination employs job involvement, how that is affected by diversity. So please explain that in detail, because you are the expert on this subject.
Part of my dissertation was trying to understand how variables, in this case, intrinsic job resources, could influence an individual to be job involved.
Okay.
These intrinsic job resources that I took were feedback, opportunities for growth and development, and authority. There is a way for you to give feedback to someone, but if you are not familiar with, or you do not have that cultural awareness, that sensitivity of how you're going to give feedback to someone, you may have had the great intention to do it, but you just lost this employee. When you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion as giving anybody the opportunity to offer or give or create value, you have to understand and acknowledge, listen, I have not seen that, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. I remember when I put together in my last organization, creating the DEI atmosphere, environment, the first committee from the ground up. And Progressive, like I mentioned earlier, has a lot of resources with DEI. They have toolkits, they have...
They've invested into this.
They invested greatly.
Okay.
So you're not going to be showing resources. But I took it on my own, as I usually do, and I created a PowerPoint with DEI called Diversity 101. And it talks about progressive core values, talk about progressive ERGs. He spoke about the history of progressive. So when I'm giving the presentation, different groups, different times, I finished one presentation of a group of a colleague of mine, and an hour later, 2 hours later, I get an email from one of his direct reports. And he said, Hernan, thank you for your passion. Thank you for sharing what I didn't know that Progressive had, how involved Progressive was. But most importantly, I'm white American. My family's from the Midwest. I come from a racist family. My wife, she's my foundation. She has been the one that has helped me to cross over that mindset. But by listening to you and understanding that it doesn't matter if you're black, brown, Asian, it doesn't matter. We work for the same company and we can offer value differently and it can be accepted. And that's part of the legitimacy that Progressive created. They allow you to have a voice. And I stayed with Progressive for so long because, again, I felt safe. Part of being an inclusive leader, you have to feel or make people feel welcome, respected, and valued for who they are. All times. And this is before Progressive kept the process going with accountability and objectives and all that. I held myself accountable for this. I took it on my own to continue learning. I cannot say it because if I say this to Alex, how is he going to feel? Even before I said jokes. And this is where implicit or unconscious bias come in. And it's like, listen, no, you can learn. You can hold that. How is that going to make the other people feel? How about someone say that to you? How are you going to feel? So putting yourself in other shoes is part of growing or nurturing or planting the seed in everyone. Because a lot of people, they just keep going back and forth with this. There's a benefit of DEI. There's a benefit. I will always hire the best person. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're coming from. I need the best person. The next one, if it's the same as the one that I hire, it is the best person for the job. So I always look at that. I feel that everyone is a diamond in the rough. You just have to polish it and nurture it and help it. At the beginning, I said about passing or sharing knowledge. That's part of my trade. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to be selfish. Part of leadership comes with holding people back because they're so good at what they do and you don't want to lose it. And that is so wrong. You have to let them go. You have to onboard them, give them feedback, constructive, balanced feedback, as that intrinsic job resources is. And make sure that the person is on the right track to go to the next assignment and keep going. Yeah, you're going to have to train somebody new, but that's part of the deal. This is you choose to do this job, and part of leading people. And the story that I use is when I joined the Army, I don't go into the Army just to collect a paycheck. They can call you for war. There were many of my peers that went to war. That's what you sign on. When you sign for leadership, those people's, those direct reports, life, professional careers, they're in your hands. And you have to acknowledge that. And I think that becoming more well-rounded, not only in DEI, but in leadership, coaching, teaching, speaking properly. Find the right setting and everything just start playing out. Everything will pay out.
Now, DEI is politicized.
It sure is.
Because there's a misnomer that DEI means a guaranteed outcome of some sort. You know, whatever your view is of how it should look, DEI means that's what we're going to make happen. And DEI, when you actually look at the studies and how it began, is actually about not only equality of opportunity, meaning with cultural sensitivity, you understand that there's different backgrounds, but they can all contribute in a meaningful way to a business, but also that once those individuals are in the group, there's an understanding of each other so that you could work more cohesively, so that there's more trust, so that everyone can be on the same page. And at the same time, you're perhaps not being offensive.
Correct.
Because of perhaps the background you have and the views you have, and your worldview gets a little bigger. And so it sounds like progressive and people like you helping progressive be a more inclusive environment, a more understanding environment. And to your point, emotional intelligence, empathy, that seems to be the cornerstone, you know, the relationships that you have. Tell me about how that extends to your experiences with conflict management, because I have to imagine that taking an inclusive position also means dealing with conflicts due to some sort of issue that goes against inclusion of some sort. So do you recall any particular experience, or like what are your general insights regarding conflict management in that lens, through that lens?
I will say, if I could talk about it, one of the courses that I teach for MIU, it's about conflict management. A lot of companies, they do not have a process for conflict management.
What do you mean?
Well, conflict arises, a situation like this. Is there a process? Is there a step? Do we need to take it somewhere else? Do we know what the conflict? Why was the conflict brought?
There's no protocol, you mean? It's just, it lands in the hands of a supervisor and they got to figure it out.
You got to deal with that.
Okay.
You got to deal with that. Now, there are other resources at Progressive. And Progressive, like I mentioned, they have a well-established process with regards of DEI and resources as well. But conflict management, I think that from what I have taught now vividly with them, there are multiple steps. There are multiple, you can avoid the conflict at all. You can collaborate with the other person. You can cooperate, or you can give in or no deal, nothing like that. But I will say that with regards of DEI, you have to always have that open mind. You have to have that, there is no deal. There is no avoided. I'm going to have to understand. And we can always agree to disagree on it. And we, as long as we respect each other, and I always ask questions. So you're saying this, but why are you saying? Ask questions. We have 2 ears and one mouth. But a lot of people, they just take it that you need to absorb my position. and they hammer on that. And I learned from my experience at my employer, no, I don't have to do that. I mean, I can agree to disagree with this. We can hire, as I mentioned. We have a process at Progressive, at MIU, to hire the best possible candidate, to be binded by our decision. And it's not necessarily, I'm going to hire 5 white Americans, 5 African Americans, just to make sure that I have 50-50 here. No, that's not the way it is. It's just to try to hire the best possible person who's going to continue helping us going and attracting more students or attracting prospect employee individuals. That's what we do. And we fail sometimes to do that. We fail to understand that there is a conflict and we choose not to do anything about it. One of the things that I have learned is I'm a process guy. So I like to process information, but at the same time, it's like I have learned to process in less time. And if I need to be open, say something, just say it. Mindfully to the other person, tactically, respectfully. And we can agree to disagree, but it's something that conflict is always going to happen. As I mentioned earlier, we just don't know when it's coming, how it's going to be packaged, or from whom it's coming. But we have to learn to deal with that. It's part of our nature, it's part of society. And as long as we keep it respectfully and backing what you believe. I didn't know about that, Alex. So thank you for opening my mind about that potential change of mindset that I could have right now, this moment. Or I can do the same for you. So
it reminds me of first-year negotiation students. They go in and they take the negotiation like it's a debate, where it's, kill or be killed, and you have to destroy the other side, and you don't make any compromises, you don't give any footholds, you don't give any suggestions. There's no multiple offers. No, it's like, this is what we want. We're not going to give anything. And then it's interesting because then they do their final simulation at the end of the term. And they're trying to find the collaborative win-win. They're trying to find, I don't have to win everything. I don't have to win the maximum amount of points or money or whatever, as long as both sides are kind of okay. So there's all of a sudden a collaborative aspect to it. And it almost sounds like that's the same approach you're taking, which is, it doesn't have to be your win at the expense of my loss.
No.
We can all win. There's plenty of room for everyone to win.
The BATNA.
Yes.
I teach him about the technique. You always have to, when we're speaking about conflict management, you have to know the other party. Part of my job at Progressive, when I was in the field with the repair facilities, I have to know what their niche is, what they like.
Right.
I need to know what they're asking. Where is the gap? Why are they not accepting? And I need to come in, and I used to come in, I am the authority to deal with this today. I understand what you're asking, and this is what I can ask you.
Right.
Some people, as you mentioned, they go back and they say, well, let's settle it. I'll offer you what you're asking. But you lost. Sometimes, I'll take that back. Sometimes you have to give in time, go to legal, money. I don't want to do it, but let's settle it. But sometimes it's like you have to prepare. You have to acknowledge what the other person is asking and what they are. Because what you do now, it could set for the future their behavior. And you don't want to do that because you may be handling that area,
right,
or maybe a colleague of you are handling, and you look what you did. Now you open a can of worms in here with this particular vendor, and you don't want to do that.
Right.
I didn't like conflict. I did not. Extrovert, but it's like, I don't want to rock the boat here.
Okay.
But I became real good because it was my job. And I'm the type of person that I don't like, well, I need to speak to your manager, director, Alex Ponce. It's like, no, Alex is going to send you back to me.
Right.
So let's avoid that waste of time. Let's go ahead and work out our differences and settle. The customer is in the middle here. So we have to acknowledge that. And by the way, I'm going to continue coming here, or one of my direct reports is going to continue coming here to your facility.
Right.
So let's work it out. What's the difference? And I became real good at it. Nervous the night before, anxious the night before. It's like, I got to go there tomorrow. But once I accomplished that, and this is part of the message, I feel really good. My confidence went up. I was able to give feedback to my direct report going forward. This is what we can do better. We don't take the time to celebrate, to dwell on our successes. We dwell more on our failures. Mm-hmm. It's like, and we still remember vividly our failures. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging a failure. Mm-hmm. Failures bring happiness. They bring innovation. They're good, but don't dwell on them too much. But you have to stop and listen. Now that we're going through my CV and all these experiences, I look back in all this career and it's like, did I accomplish all that? And you look back, we don't do that. We don't pat ourselves. Slow down. You earned that. You were recognized. Mm-hmm. You're a top tier candidate, just to give an opinion on this. Am I? You are. We don't celebrate our successes. And that's something in leadership that it was part of my responsibility to ensure that my direct reports, my colleagues, you did well. You're amazing doing that. It's and sometimes it has to be brought to your attention. Mm-hmm. You're really good at what you do, Alex. And it makes you think. It makes you grow. Mm-hmm. It makes you realize that yeah, you can do it.
It's interesting you brought up BATNA because I always think that it's a sign of respect when you don't waste other people's time.
I agree.
And so when I see negotiations, like my trick is to have an idea what it is they're asking for, mm-hmm. and right off the bat, give them 70%.
You can do it.
Why? Because they're so prepared for the fight. They're so prepared for you to give them, offer 1%. You start at the bottom, they start at the top. And then
lowballing them, yeah.
By starting so far ahead of where they thought you were going to be, they're kind of left with, what am I asking for?
You shook them.
Right, because you're shaking them into thinking, now it makes them feel silly to ask for more, even though they're still 30% apart, from what they were originally asking for. That they're like, okay, well, let's compromise. Let's discuss this. Hold on. I don't want to, you're already starting there. Hold on. And it cuts down the negotiation time.
It does.
It builds respect. And it shows a sense of collaboration, which is to the point you're making, which is, I'm not trying to beat you. I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying and be inclusive and be together collaboratively. Now, you've mentored colleagues of yours at programs like the Accelerated Development Program and also at high schools. I mean, what do you believe is the most critical aspect of mentoring these young individuals at these places? Because one thing is you're coaching an adult, you're coaching someone that's been in the professional world 20, 30, 40 years. What's it like mentoring such young people that have zero real life experience? Everything's been kind of in a bubble for them.
I think that we alluded into that. A lot of people, or not a lot of people, I cannot quantify that number, but people, they don't think that there is someone like them out there. Mm-hmm. And when I have had the opportunity to mentor at work, I mentor from my inner self. Mm. I mentor in a way that here's who I am. Here's where I have failed. Here are some of the alternatives that I have taken. Mm-hmm. Here are my successes, the ones that I can acknowledge. I'm here as an open book. I'm here for you to use me as a resource, as a trampoline if you want to go somewhere else. I'm here to help you out. But I'm expecting the same from you. I'm expecting the same effort that I'm going to put in this relationship.
Right.
I'm going to be transparent. There are going to be things or words that maybe they're going to cut you off guard because I'm trying to motivate you. You can do better than that. Or you could have asked or find something else. In my mentorship, transparency, vulnerability, being who you are, and just creating that trust from the very first meeting are key ingredients of success at the end. You have to. Because if there is no trust, if there is no respect, this is not going to work out.
And that's critical for a young person. I mean, they almost have an innate sense of respect and self, even though they don't know how to articulate that immediately sets the stage for the relationship.
Agree.
Usually with adults, you build up the respect. There's kind of a presumption that you're both coming at it from the same angle and you're going to try to work out. But young people don't. It's almost like you have to prove yourself up front, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's looking out for me. Okay, I could talk to him.
I will say that, yes, the young minds are different.
Yeah.
But you have to put in their mindset as well. Mm-hmm. On the way here, from the parking lot, I asked the student, hey, do you know where the Mango building is? Say, sure, that one. I could have speed up and just keep walking. Mm-hmm. I stay at the same pace, and I asked him, so how do you like FIU? I said, I like it. I'm now full-time. I'm putting my mindset now in what I need to do. I still don't know where I'm going, but I think that this is going to open a few more doors once I conclude this journey.
Oh, so he opened up to you. Okay.
He did. And the amazing part is that I don't mind talking to anybody. I enjoy that. And I think that's part of my uniqueness. Mm. I talk to anybody. I'm going to be asking questions. I use humor. Humor is one of those factors that a leader must have.
Okay.
You cannot always be dry face or...
You're the first one to say that. A sense of humor is so important.
I make, in my classes, I make jokes, and the first joke, the person in the joke is me.
Right.
This is the mistake that I made. And people say, wow, professor, that was funny. That was funny. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm not perfect. And when you go into a mentorship, you have to, I go in, I'm not perfect. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share.
Your imperfection.
Everything that didn't work out so you don't make the mistake. But you go further.
Right.
Again, you cannot be holding back. When you are mentoring someone. The young kid, well, I call him kid, he's 20 now, that I mentor in high school in Atlanta. I was invited as a professional to mentor a 9th grader. This school, it's in downtown Atlanta, and Crystal Ray. I asked the coordinator, so how long is the commitment? And she said, well, typically a year, but if you can stay a little bit longer, it will help.
Okay.
So I said, in my mind, it's like I'd never done a kid in high school, so I don't know how this is going to work out. Here are the rules, the coordinator said. Meet in school, no offside, phone calls monthly, help. I stayed with him for 4 years. He is the first kid in his family who is in college. Maybe a cliche for many people, but for me, and going to his graduation, and he kept, thank you, Hernán, thank you, Hernán. I said, I didn't do anything. I think I didn't do that much. Mm-hmm. Well, he's in college. He's still in college right now. And this was through COVID as well, and the pandemic. And, I look back, same thing that I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, the transparency, being open, being available. They act differently. They have they have the same time and they sleep the same time, but they're different. Their brain is just out of the blue. Hernán, can you help me with this? See, does he know that I'm at work? Sure, But mentorship is a key for our future.
No, absolutely. Tell me, you've led teams through high pressure situations. I mean, you were processing $320 million in insurance payments back when you were with Progressive. You're now mentoring individuals. You're doing these different philanthropic efforts, which in my opinion, is more almost like coaching from the way that you went about it. How do you feel that, you're able to manage the stress and maintain your focus on the professional side? Because you're like Gumby, you're being pulled in every direction.
Sure.
And in part, you're kind of like asking for it. You're like, yeah, pull me. And then how do you balance the professional side of things?
I will say that I am kind of a perfectionist.
Okay.
In a way. I learned from that very first experience in the military, when I was in basic training. Okay, so doing the bed right, no wrinkles, will reward me. that the drill sergeant doesn't tear my bed, my closet apart. So I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Being on time. There are individual events and there are team events where you have to all be in time, same time.
Mm-hmm.
Preparation. Make sure that everything that you have gathered up to this point lead you to a great execution. Prepare yourself ahead. I don't have a crystal ball,
Right.
but I have learned to forecast. I have learned to organize myself in a way that I know what I have next month, 2 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
Use technology. You could use this, the ledger, but we're past that. We have a phone. You can use it, for your advantage as a reminder, etc. I guess it depends. To answer your question, it depends your job. Because when you define stress, it could vary my stress from your stress, what I used to do. I knew that it was coming.
Right.
The dilemma with the conflict with the customer or the vendor. There were days, there were weeks that I said, I need to celebrate. I had no complaints this week. No stress to that level. But I knew because it was my job. It still is a very stressful job. You have to manage, and the way I manage is to separate. Once I left work, it was my family.
Right.
It was for me to go to the gym or do something fun in the weekends, maybe play some golf. Monday, yeah, I get it. It's going back to the same. I don't like surprises.
Okay.
But I tend to prep my direct reports as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you have something going on, something imminent that it needs my attention, let's talk about it. So that was part of the implementing like those weekly one-on-ones versus monthly one-on-ones.
Okay.
So at the time I was aware what problems you had or what you need from me for this particular month of November or December coming up.
So you seem hands off. I mean, you still do touch bases.
I do.
A little more frequently to make sure things are going fine. And you seem to be more into servant leadership. So if they need something, you seem to be, more than happy to help.
There are multiple leadership styles.
Mm-hmm.
I fit in that one.
Okay.
I like servant. Transformational.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have to give in something, so I feel into transactional.
Of course.
Sometimes, democratic here, let's go ahead and vote. I need everybody's voice, so it's not me calling the decision because everybody's going to be affected. So it depends, but more fall into the servant leadership. I'm laid back.
Mm-hmm.
I say, my employees, my direct report, I don't treat them as child.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting paid well. You have some great benefits. You know your objectives, Alex. I do. Okay. You know what the expectations are. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Touch and go. Now,
And you find you have a better interaction with them, better productivity?
allowing someone to have their space.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about this. This is interesting. There is a type of leadership when face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
Now try to manage or lead remotely, like many companies are doing that. How am I going to know that Alex is doing his job?
Mm-hmm.
There are ways. Tactically, you have to find those ways to motivate the individual. I don't like surprises. I don't like to give you surprises. But if there is an area that you are not performing well,
Mm-hmm.
we need to talk about it, and I'm going to monitor that. I hold myself accountable. I'm going to hold you accountable. And this is part of the stress, because now I'm going to have to work out with my direct report to improve that particular area. Mm-hmm. But we'll go ahead and celebrate once you do. Try to find out what led you there. Was it personal situation? Was it that you don't know how to do that? You're not asking questions. Is it my fault that you're not getting all the resources? But managing stress, I think that it gets better once you acknowledge that it exists, that it's out there.
So self-awareness is important.
Self-awareness, part of that emotional intelligence.
You bring up an interesting point about the office and remote work. What's your take on it? I mean, some studies show productivity is up.
It's up.
Some studies show that that learning you do, that implicit learning you do just by being in the same vicinity as somebody else is slowly being eroded because you're not there anymore at the office. And now companies are demanding return to office. or making some sort of hybrid where it's like a few days in, a few days out. What are your personal feelings from your professional experience and from what you've seen? I don't know if you could coach a CEO right now and they're telling you, well, we're thinking about doing right now, everyone's remote. We're thinking about return to office. What do you think?
I will ask them, do you know what your employee is doing right now? Some leaders tend to overuse, like the red or the blue if you're available, the yellow, I'll be right back. Always red, always busy. So that I will not approach you because you're always unavailable. So you're pushing me back, pushing me out. True, I have to handle the phone. I have to be in a meeting. I'll tell my team, this is my schedule for today. So I only have this time. Plus, I'm meeting with one of you today. If you see me in red, unless it's an emergency, just shoot it. Just send me the message and I'll address it.
Right.
I mentioned that there are ways for you to know that they're being productive. You set up a meeting, a weekly meeting, not a daily meeting. Try to find out what's the best time. Maybe mornings. But the other factor here is that your 6, 7 direct employees may be Michigan, Florida, Arizona, California, you're different time zones.
And yours are just domestic.
And
I have to deal with people around the world.
There you go.
Just this morning, I had to talk to someone in Singapore.
So, there you go. So you have many factors that influence communication. But I will say that my take on it after work, in my last assignment with Progressive remotely, I was more productive. I had more time.
Okay.
I had more freedom. Because my manager and everyone above, they knew that I work.
Okay.
They knew that it's like, if you need me, I'm there. My work is always going to be, I didn't have any work behind. That's the way I work. And
you've always been that way.
Kind of, yes.
But being remote kind of gave you a little more freedom, a little more agency.
Absolutely.
To be able to handle it maybe a little differently so that you can do it with maybe less stress.
Less driving.
Well, yeah, the driving alone.
I mean,
that's 2 hours right there. You just saved yourself.
When I landed here yesterday, I said, I have faith that the traffic in Miami has improved. I was so wrong.
It never changes, my friend. It never changes.
Oh, man.
So let me ask you. I know why you got a bachelor's, because most people, that's something you just check off a box. That's something everyone has to have as a foundational. I can imagine that you earned your master's either to level up or to learn something so that you could compete, on an even playing field with your peers. Why go for the doctorate in business administration? Because it sounds to me at that point, you've already succeeded. Everyone has a different answer, by the way.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to give you a different one, too.
Okay, all right.
Knowledge is power.
Okay.
That cliche, yeah, I get it. My nephew graduating from BU, and we were celebrating, and his brother already has a PhD. He said, why don't you get one? Okay. I said, you are out of your mind. Going back and put myself in line of duty here, no, I don't do it. But I had it. I had that thought. And a second opinion or a second observation came from someone else. I said, I always like challenges.
Okay.
And I think that when you're at work and you're doing and everything is working out, and it's like, okay, maybe I'm boring. I'm getting boring here at this point. All right. I started to research. I said, DBA is what I would like to do. I cannot do a PhD because at the time, I cannot leave my employer, support my family, 5 years. No, DBA. So what schools are economic as well? I took that factor.
Okay.
And South Florida, Kennesaw State, Georgia State, FIU, and maybe a few more.
But FIU is uniquely positioned.
I said I used to live in Miami. I have family in Miami. The weather, FIU is a hub. It's a melting pot, Miami. And the opportunity to come down monthly at the time to Miami for a weekend, That's it.
Well,
And
I think they're number 2 in international business.
there,
I mean, you can't beat
no,
that.
you cannot beat it. The staff, and this is why I chose FIU. So I was participating on one of those conference calls, and Dr. George Maracas.
Yes.
So Dr. G was holding that call, and someone mentioned a comment, and Dr. G, knowing who he is, how sassy he is, he told the gentleman, "No, that's incorrect. Let me explain." Not knowing him physically, just hearing his voice, his tone of confidence, and I am one of the professors. I am this person. I said, I'm going for FIU.
He single-handedly sold you with his way of being.
He did.
I can tell you right now from personal experience, I've heard that anecdote many times. Him and Lasar and a few others, there's a certain confidence that you expect from the leadership.
Indeed.
But it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to experience it. And if you felt it, you know it.
I did experience it.
Well, you're here, you're living proof that it happened. Let me ask you though, getting a doctorate is not easy.
No.
Granted, it's not a 5-6 year hiatus in some, remote library somewhere. It is a professional degree, but it's still a major commitment.
It is.
That, along with work, along with family. I mean, I can only imagine the challenges you've had to endure just to get to the point you're here. I always tell my guests, no one is born a CEO. No one is born a success. You have to get there, and usually with a lot of setbacks along the way.
I agree.
A lot of heartbreaks, a lot of issues. If you don't mind sharing some of that experience and how you got here, because obviously it's not unscathed. Everyone comes with scars.
I will say this, Alex, is and this is part of that inner process that I went through. Once I committed, I'm committed. And a 3-year program, 20 years, I want to say 20 years since I finished my master's. English is my second language. And going into a doctoral program, a high classified doctoral program, from the very first reception where we met nearby this building. And it was like a horseshoe, the sitting area. And I was on this side of the room. And they started from the other side to introduce themselves. I am so-so, president of I am so-so, I'm a faculty here. I'm so-so. It's like, I question myself. Am I in the right group? Am I to the level of my colleagues? I can call them colleagues right now. Am I at that? You challenge yourself to think otherwise. But in reality, if you have made that commitment, you have crossed that mental line to join a doctoral program, I am the type of person, I'll finish it. Here comes 2022. And that was the year of defending the dissertation in July 2022. And my wife, she suffered from MS. February or March 2022, she suffered her most significant episode. It was very difficult. We were considering selling the house, not for that reason, for health conditions. Preparing the dissertation, working at Progressive. My daughter was graduating from college. There were so many different events happening. And we talked earlier about stress. I was definitely stressed. But Progressive was indeed part of the solution. I had to take some time off. They were great. You need to take the time that you need. My wife condition improved. So when I went to the dissertation in July, my mind was better situated to prepare my best self version to the panel and finish that task. The program itself, incredible. incredible. All the professors and the way that they guide you from the proposal, from writing your first proposal to the summer proposal.
Right.
Now we're focusing on this. And I had to change topics of dissertation, thanks to Dr. G. But he guided me as well through that process. They make you think. It's like, what value are you going to add investigating performance, Hernán?
Right.
How much more you want to be written about it? Focus on something else. Give me the opportunity. Yeah, that was stressful. Now I have to start from the ground up. Different variables, different model, etc. It's like, fine, I know what he wants. And that's the same mindset why I came to FIU. Because they challenge you. They will squeeze the best out of you. And you can use this in multiple ways. The knowledge, the relationship that I build, the program itself, what I learn. I use a lot when I teach leadership classes, when I teach HR, conflict management classes, operations. And it just comes, it circle back. And I recognize that it's like things don't happen out of the blue.
Right.
You may not understand what happened 10 years ago. Why did I took that training? Why did I mentor someone? But it's just playing out now. I didn't know that. I love continuous improvement. Lean, Kaizen, Six Sigma. I love all that because I'm block, process.
Right.
Now I'm teaching that to my students. And it's like I supplement what we have in the syllabus, what we have in the units, but I supplement with additional information, with my experiences, so it all makes sense. And I put myself, this is how it could work if you do this process. But FIU, best decision. Panther for life.
As we wrap up, I do have to ask, if you were to give top advice right now to someone that either just got their bachelor's degree or has been working for the last 15, 20 years and just got their master's and they're entering or pivoting into a different area, or they're thinking about a doctorate, what is the number one piece of advice you think that everyone should understand? What is it that you can distill of your life experience as the most important thing that they should know or focus on?
If you are already considering or have considered to get a doctorate, you're already across.
Okay.
Now you just have to do your due diligence. What program? Does the program have any specialization?
Right.
Or if it's straight doctor in business administration?
Well, let's say then someone that's going into the workforce for the first time. What advice would you give them?
I will say there is always going to be a benefit at the end when you go through a program like this. You will always utilize all the information that they provide you. And I think that is not going to be a waste time. It's going to be an opportunity for you just to continue acquiring knowledge and for you to continue sharing knowledge. It's going to help you down the road. You have to, how can I say this? Ourselves have to continue evolving. And power of knowledge, power of acquiring a doctoral degree is part of that continuous improving yourself.
Right.
And there will be, like again, there's no waste of time in this. It's a win-win situation. And if the person decides that FIU is a place, then welcome. Welcome, because you're going to enjoy the ride. You're going to enjoy an array of colleagues, staff, acquaintances, resources that are going to be not only for that 3 years, they're for life. So you have that, you can rely on them for business or for school purposes, personal as well. There's a win-win. I don't regret it.
Good to hear. So continuous self-improvement, those are wonderful words to close this segment out. Thank you so much, Dr. Hernán Morales.
Thank you so much, Alex.
I wish you nothing but safe travels on your way back home. And this has been a beautiful moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Hernán.
it. Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
The journey to success often requires sacrifice, but the rewards are worth it. Remember to celebrate your progress and support those around you who are pursuing their dreams. This episode is dedicated to those who push forward despite the odds, proving that perseverance makes all the difference. I'm Alex Ponce. Until next time.